World War II was a brutal war responsible for many heinous acts of violence, terror, and torture. But could it have been even worse? What if there had been undead Nazi super soldiers incapable of dying by natural means or injuries? What if Hitler himself had become an immortal god? What if he had opened a portal to the other side? Today, we're going to talk about those topics and more in this insanely bizarre and absolutely horrifying episode of Tipplers 2 Cents. I hate you Nazis, and may Hitler rot in hell. Everybody, and welcome back to episode 6 of Tipplers 2 Cents. I'm your host, Chris Walters, and joining me as always is the impeccable and tantalizing Sean Knox.
Hey guys, how you doing? If you didn't know, 5.5 inches is normal, so fuck you. You know who you are.
Thank you guys for tuning in once again. If you're a return listener, and thank you very kindly if you're a new listener, can't wait to drop my hot load of knowledge into virgin ears. If that doesn't excite you, then what might excite you is to know that we still have a few shirts available for purchase if you're looking to support the show. If you happen to buy a t-shirt, let us know so we can give you all a little shout out. Sean, can you go ahead and give a shout out to the 2 people that we actually know have purchased shirts?
Yeah, it's the person who pooped out my kid and the person who pooped out me. So it's my baby mama and my mama. It's Brittany Bravo and Christina Knox. Thank you for buying the shirts. It actually helps a lot, and yeah, you're some special people, and we'll take your money gladly.
Okay, so is there any updates that you have other than reporting on the 2 shirts that are purchased?
Let's see. We had a couple of messages from actually our mom. She sent us an article that had something to do with the involvement of the Mandela effect. It had a couple of things that actually had a lot to do with even a couple of different episodes. Am I right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I read it very quickly, but yeah, it mainly had to do with the Mandela effect and kind of alternate dimension type stuff. It was pretty cool though. We can actually probably post that on our Facebook page for you guys to take a look at too.
Yeah, we'll probably go into it later on because we want to go into the Mandela effect by itself, and we'll probably use this article as a source. So thanks, Mom. I appreciate it a lot. Outside of that, I'm not really sure. We didn't really get that many other messages, other than, you know, a couple of articles from our mom, because that's pretty much all she likes doing is just telling us we're stupid. But outside of that, you know, it's great. It's great reporting on the fact that only our mom is giving us updates. So,
all right. Well, let's move on to what we're sucking on down here today. For me, I'm drinking some Voodoo Ranger IPA. Sean, please don't tell me you're still milking that same bottle of whiskey.
No, yeah, I am. I thought about getting something at the convenience store, but it turns out I really like this whiskey, so.
Well, alright, that's fine.
But yeah, Santori whiskey, Japanese. Yeah, same shit, different day.
Alright, well, let's go ahead and propose a toast as usual. Today I'd like to dedicate this toast to all of you who are considerate enough to wear a mask during these trying times of the old COVID-19. Without you, we might all be lost, so thank you for doing your part to reduce the spread and, in general, not being such a stubborn jackass. Actually, I gotta crack mine open here real quick. Sean, would you pass me the bottle opener, please?
Yeah. Oh, and the fact that we both actually are recording together today. We're not.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. This is the first time we're doing it together, not over, a phone call. All right, crack this open. And cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, well, let's go ahead and crack on to today's topics. Today we are talking about occultism, Nazis, and Hitler, and how they all relate. Get ready for a ride into Crazy Town, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to get weird. So first off, let's start with a simple definition of what exactly is occultism. Occultism is the belief in the existence of secret, mysterious, or supernatural agencies. It can also be defined as the study or practice of occult arts. The history of occult practices dates back to the 16th century, when it was first defined as occult sciences. Occult sciences then referred to the practice of astrology, alchemy, and natural magic. Natural magic was things like chemistry and, just basically stuff that we know now is just modern science. Remember, this was the 16th century, so everyone was a fucking ape back then and thought it was, if you were able to create anything that was bright and sparkly, it was magic. And more likely, if you did create something bright and sparkly, they probably thought you were a witch or some shit and would have had you killed, instead of marvel at your scientific prowess. They would, probably do something like, "I doth say, how frightful a machination you hath summoned, my dear Bequeathius."
What?
Well, nothing left to do but cast you into the fire. 'Tis a shame. Who would have known but dear Bequeathius was such a witch? Anyway, the term occultism, however, first emerged in the 19th century in France. Nowadays, occultism is a broad use term, often used to describe the study or practice of spiritualism, theosophy, anthroposophy, and parapsychology, all of which are very in detail stuff to go into, so I'm not going to spend my time explaining what all of them are, but you can look them up on your own. Theosophy is basically like, about gods and stuff. Anthroposophy, kind of more about the body. And parapsychology, obviously, more of like with the mind, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like psychic. That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, I mean, really all of those could be like episodes on their own, so I'm not going to go any more into that. But more so what people think of when they hear the word occult is they think of like the paranormal, which, by the way, if you want to hear some more paranormal stuff, check out our previous episode 5. We talk about a lot of ghosts and stuff like that. Anyway, occultism basically accounts for all of the bizarre, hard to define phenomena that we find in our world. Now, the question then arises, what the hell does that have to do with Nazis and Hitler? And that is a great question. I will not answer that just yet, because we first need to make sure everyone is on the same page about who the Nazis and Hitler were, where they came from, and what led them to turn to occultism. So let's turn this over to Jonathan real quick, so he can give you a brief description and origin of the German far-right political party, the Nazis. Sean?
The Nazi Party, as it is commonly referred to in English, was, like Chris mentioned, a far-right extremist political party formed in Germany on February 24th, 1920. It was preceded by the German Workers' Party, which was essentially the same thing, just smaller and less recognized. The Nazi Party emerged from a German paramilitary culture known as Freikorps, which was defined by its nationalist, racist, and populist ideals. The party was created in order to draw workers and soldiers away from communist uprisings in a post-World War I Germany. Instead, the party looked to draw them into Völkisch nationalism, which was a movement that essentially sought to generate a sense of patriotism for Germany and German culture. But through a more racist and populist lens, this brought on ideals that we familiarize with Nazis and nowadays, like homophobia, racism, and anti-Semitism, etc. Basically, they instilled this mindset that they needed to bring about this pure race of Germans known as Aryans, all founded and based in pseudoscience, mind you. In fact, the race of Aryans remained as merely a race concept and not actually a defined race of people. So it's basically just a bunch of bullshit to brainwash Germans into thinking that they were taking part in something that was going to bring about the best Germany they could ever be, with a master race of Germans ruling Germany. In all honesty, though, it was just a lot of falsifications and pseudoscience to disguise a whole lot of hatred towards anyone who was just a little different, and that's essentially what it meant to be a Nazi. You're nothing more than a hateful fucking bigot who idealizes hate in the guise of patriotism. So if you see anyone who idolizes Nazis and waves around a Nazi flag, we kindly implore you, motherfucker, to punch them as hard as you fucking proudly can. But the Nazis might not be as recognized as they are today without the help of the infamous leader, Adolf Hitler. Chris, tell us about good old Hitler, please.
Yeah, so now that you know a little more about the Nazis and what they're all about, we of course must talk about Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was a Austria-Hungary born politician who rose to power to become Germany's chancellor in 1933 and then Führer in 1934. Führer, by the way, is a German word meaning leader or guide. Before all that, Hitler became leader of the Nazi Party in 1921 after being groomed for the position by Anton Drexler, who founded the party. This basically was his entry into politics, with a few uninteresting events preceding that. Hitler was basically just a common soldier before that and didn't really get into politics until he joined the aforementioned German Workers' Party, which turned into the Nazi Party. Well then, he became the leader of the Nazi Party in 1921, and when all hell broke loose inside Hitler's tiny and angry little mind. You see, I think the time spent associating with a bunch of hate-mongering Germans might have had something to do with the fact that Hitler wanted to wipe out a whole bunch of people. Might also have had something to do with that mustache of his. I mean, sporting that shit-lip mustache must take something out of you. I refuse to believe anyone can rock that thing without a little bit of emotional stress. And he definitely wanted to rock that mustache, and I'm gonna guess that one day he must have ran into like a Jew or something, and they mocked it, and then Hitler was just like, "They all must die, every single one of them. How dare they mock my mustache? I mean, it's so cool, it's so hip. Like, why would they hate it? Fuck!" But anyway, after he becomes the leader of the Nazi Party, Hitler takes it up a notch just 2 years later in 1923 and attempts a coup in Munich in order to seize power for himself. Well, this little coup didn't really turn out so well for him. Actually, the coup was a complete failure, which ultimately resulted in the deaths of 16 Nazi Party members, yay, and 4 police officers, not yay. It also resulted in Hitler being arrested just 2 days later and then being charged with treason. So it was during this time of imprisonment that Hitler wrote the infamously bad autobiographical manifesto Mein Kampf. Surprisingly, after only serving 9 months in prison, he was released, which I find strange, and I couldn't find info as to why he was released. That's just bizarre to me, but I mean, you're being charged with treason, and then they just let him go. So, I don't know. Something fishy happened there. But anyway, he decided he would try to gain power again, but this time he was going to try it through a more legal means since, he couldn't do it by force. You'd think, angry, tiny little Hitler would have learned his lesson from this big failure, but oh no, it only inspired the power-hungry little bastard. So now, it's 1924, and Hitler runs for office, easily gaining traction through his ties with the Nazi Party and his powerful, charismatic speeches. If you didn't know that, he is actually a very good speaker, and, there's, videos and stuff like that where you can watch his speeches. You can tell why he gained so much traction. He just spoke so powerfully and everything like that. I'm not trying to, admire him in any sort of way, but I'm just, saying that that's why I understand a lot of people fell for his bullshit back then.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with the utter passion and, not tripping over your words, because in that way it shows kind of like a hesitation, and he showed none of that.
Well, and I mean, it's just proven in history that people respond to, people who speak so powerfully and stuff like that. Like, especially when there are people like Hitler who, like you said, spoke with a lot of passion. He would pound on the, the pedestal when he was talking, and he would get so into his speeches, his hair would flip around, and it really inspired people to show like how passionate he was about what he was talking about. So
yeah, he was about to open that fucking pit up on the stage, huh?
He's like, let's get a fucking pit open in here. But anyway, by 1932, the Nazi Party had most of the seats within the German Reichstag, which was the lower house of their republic legislator. From there, it was pretty easy to transition himself into the nice, cozy, and powerful position of Germany's chancellor. And he even had so much pull that he had the former Germany's chancellor pretty much give him the seat. So now let's take a second to clarify why I'm telling you all of this, because it's basically just to help characterize who Hitler and the Nazis were, so that way you have a better understanding of, you know, why they ended up dabbling in the occult. Hitler and his Nazis were just power-hungry motherfuckers through and through. They sought nothing but domination through any means, and they gained support by masquerading their true intentions as something that was going to be beneficial for their whole country. And I mean, you know, surely it would have been, but as everyone might know, Hitler didn't really turn out to do a whole lot of good for anyone other than himself. In fact, most modern-day Germans don't look fondly on the memories of Hitler and his Nazis, which, you know, isn't too surprising. And yeah, I mean, I confirmed this for myself. I just did a little basic research on that. Most of them, I used to hear back in high school that most Germans wouldn't acknowledge that World War II happened, but that's not the fact. They do acknowledge it, and they're basically trying to learn from it, which I think is, you know, the responsible thing to do. Yeah,
because we sure as shit aren't going to learn from fucking Trump. I can just tell you that right now.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, there's things like that today where it's just, you know, with like the police stuff going on, you know, it's something where we shouldn't take sides. We should just recognize that it's a problem and work on it, you know?
Yeah, like...
not pretend it's not happening and not support it happening or anything like that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say that Trump is anywhere near as bad as, you know, Hitler was, obviously. But just like the little things, like the video where the old man was pushed on the ground.
Yeah.
And he claimed that he might have been like Antifa, whatever. I'm like, dude, fucking really? Yeah. Grow up. Anyway, go ahead, man.
Yeah, but anyway, to wrap things up on Hitler's characteristics and lack thereof, this last bit of information should do the trick. Thanks to Hitler's radical and honestly insane notions and beliefs in this racially pure Germany that he was trying to create, it led to the deaths of over 6 million Jews during the time known as the Holocaust. Over 6 million, guys. 6 million of anything is too much. $6 million, 6 million ants, 6 million red Luftballons. No, seriously though, that at least 6 million lives lost simply because this madman and a bunch of other madmen just went on some sort of power trip. It's absolutely awful. Nevertheless, it happened, and it's hard to imagine that it could have been worse, hypothetically anyway. So, now that we got the groundwork laid out here for this, let's dissect the Nazi Party and Hitler's more blatantly obvious religious and occult influences. Sean, can you give us a few examples of that?
Well, for starters, the word swastika comes from the Sanskrit svastika, which is ironically more German than German, meaning good fortune or well-being. That's fucking great.
Yeah.
The swastika is a symbol of the Nazi flag that everyone should know and think of when I say the word Nazi, but that right there already shows the kind of mysticism attached to Hitler and his belief. It's no accident that he chose this symbol, of course. Many of the high-ranking Nazi officials were, in fact, huge enthusiasts of Eastern mysticism. The swastika, before being associated to the Nazi flag as a symbol of spirituality and divinity in some Indian cultures, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. The Nazi version of the swastika is actually more of a bastardized version than the original, and it's honestly kind of sad that they have disgraced what was meant to be such a peace and love kind of symbol. Another example of Hitler's occult interest was that of the Holy Lance or Spear of Destiny. Some of you might know that this as the legendary fabled spear of Longinus, which was said to be the spear that impaled Jesus Christ when he was crucified on the cross. Apparently, Hitler spent much of his young life studying the spear, which was on display in the Habsburg treasury at the Hofmuseum in Vienna, according to the account of a Dr. Walter Stein. He became convinced that Hitler was deeply involved with the occult and that possibly he had some sort of spiritual mentor. You see, Dr. Stein and a young Hitler had met through their mutual interest in the Spear of Destiny while they were both in Vienna. At some point, Hitler had confessed to Stein that the spear had granted him visions of his future and his destiny. As weird as that sounds, the spear is rumored to have extraordinary talismanic powers, so much so that it's said to grant the power to rule the world to whoever takes possession of the spear. So it's not hard to imagine why Hitler took such an interest in this spear. A power-hungry little fuck interested in a power-granting relic? Go fucking figure. On March 12th, 1938, Hitler actually ended up taking possession of the spear from the Hofmuseum in Vienna and had it sent to Nuremberg, which was viewed as the spiritual capital of Nazi Germany. Strangely, on April 30th, 1945, after Nuremberg was bombed to hell, the spear found itself in possession of the U.S. Army General Patton. Coincidentally, later that day, Hitler committed suicide. Coincidence? I mean, probably, but it's a little spoopy. Another interesting fact linking Hitler to the occult is that Hitler's mentor Dietrich Eckart, was a dedicated Satanist and central figure in the occult tool society, according once again to Dr. Walter Stein, though it is also worth mentioning that upon further research, it appears that Stein's relationship with Eckart and Hitler must have turned sour at some point, and this could have just been a form of slander. So, who knows? Some other instances of Hitler's occult interests include a previous episode subject, which was Atlantis. Yep. Apparently, Hitler and Himmler, leader of the SS, held frequent conversation about Atlantis and its downfall. They also talked about a discredited pseudoscience called Weltaicellir.
Yeah. It's a hard word to pronounce. Weltaicellir.
Fuck it. Or world ice theory. So thank God for English translations. Which was the theory that the cosmos was made of ice. Somehow they saw this as a Germanic counterbalance to the Jewish theory of relativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when you're that racist and anti-Semitic, you'll go to any lengths to discredit the Jewish community. But none of this is nearly as crazy and fucked up as this next part. Heads up to the squeamish, because we're about to go down a dark road here. Chris, why don't you detail for us some of the real-life experiments that the Nazis conducted to their prisoners?
Yeah, I will get to that, but one thing I wanted to say too is that when I was looking up some of the stuff about them talking about Atlantis, it's like the stuff that they believed about Atlantis was crazy too. And just one of them real quick was just the fact that they totally believed that Atlantis was real, by the way, which, like we talked about in one of the previous episodes, Atlantis was not real. It was completely fake. They're just one of those idiots who thought it was real, which, I mean, there's still plenty of those guys today. But they also thought that it doesn't even make any fucking sense, but they thought parts of the moon fell and destroyed Atlantis. I can't make this shit up, dude. Okay. They believe in some really crazy things.
You know, like, all this shit is always so good for not a movie, just maybe like a very, very overhyped video game.
Yeah, I know. Like some of the concepts.
I can kind of understand why Wolfenstein was so fucking successful. If they were like, oh yeah, on the moon, it fell on the earth back in the olden days. So, you know, that's why Atlantis is gone. You know, I'd be like,
it was very real. My cousin went there, for sure.
Yeah, there's a big old crater. It's in the size of a sign of a crescent. You know, that's how we know it's a moon.
That's how we know it's the moon. Okay, but yeah, let's get back to talking about the real-life experiments that the Nazis conducted. But first, I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys our favorite drinking buddies. Today's Tipplers Tidbit. Tipplers Tidbit. Today's Tipplers Tidbit is a mixed drink that contains carbonation, is absorbed into the body more quickly than other alcoholic beverages, meaning you can get drunk faster on, say, champagne as opposed to straight shots. So, you know, time to turn up at the next wedding you go to, am I right? Open bar. One little extra bit of, info. We'll just include this as a little, side piece since it's pertaining to today's subject. Adolf Hitler was apparently one of the world's most known abstainers from alcohol, meaning he never drank.
And he was vegetarian.
And I guess he was vegetarian. Don't know what that has to do with alcohol, but there you go.
Just as interesting. I'm already a little tips.
All right. This has been your Tipplers Tidbit.
Tipplers Tidbit.
All right, guys. Let's talk about the fucked up human experiments that really happened during the Holocaust. And I'm just going to warn you, it gets pretty dark. To start us off, I'm just going to go ahead and list a bunch of the experiments that they conducted, and then we'll talk about a few of them in detail. So, some of the experiments Nazis conducted on their Jewish prisoners, not just Jewish, but, Russian, all sorts of Polish ones, blah, blah, blah. But some of the experiments were bone, muscle, and nerve transplants, freezing experiments, electroshock experiments, incendiary bomb experiments. Not hard to imagine how that one was conducted. Blood coagulation experiments.
No.
Sterilization and fertility experiments. Mustard gas experiments. And then experiments on twins.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, a whole lot of fucked up experiments. And that wasn't even all of it. That was just literally a little sliver of some of the ones that I came across. Why would they conduct these fucked up experiments? Good question. It's because Nazis were fucked up assholes. That's why. And as we're starting to realize, they and Hitler all believed in some seriously outlandish and downright fucking retarded, stupid, dumb things. But okay, I want to talk in more detail about a few of these experiments, starting with the bone, muscle, and nerve transplant experiments. So, this experiment was conducted from about September 1942 to December 1943 at the Ravensbrück concentration camp in Germany. The purpose of the experiment was to study the regeneration of bone, muscle, and nerves, as well as the transplantation from one human subject to another. All this simply for the benefit of the German armed forces' knowledge. It should go without saying that none of these experiments were done with any sort of consent or free will. It's not like some kind gentleman named Hans came up to each prisoner and was like, "Would you like to volunteer your bones, muscles, and nerves to be removed so us Germans can learn a little something, yeah?" No, it was more like, I need your bones, your muscles, your nerves, and your motorcycle. Yeah, but, it should also be noted that, at least for this experiment, and I'm going to assume for most of them, there was no anesthesia given to the patients. So, these poor fucking people were having their bones, muscles, and nerves removed while they were wide awake, fully conscious, and aware of what was going on.
Yeah,
I can't even begin to imagine that. It's so fucked up. Fucked up.
Imagine being fucking vivisected.
Yeah. I was trying to explain it to Crystal. Just imagine somebody walking in this room right now, just tying you down and just starting fucking hacks all your limbs off, basically. Basically what these guys are doing. Your nerves, too. Your fucking nerves. God.
Man.
So yeah, obviously many patients were in intense agony, suffered permanent disabilities, and death from these experiments. Surprisingly, there was one such survivor of one of these horrible experiments named, I'm probably going to butcher this, but Jadwiga Kaminska, who recalls having her leg operated on several times during her imprisonment at Ravensbrück. She described that she was never explicitly told what sort of operation was being performed on her, and that the only reasoning that she was given was because she was a young girl and a Polish patriot. So literally just because she was a girl that was Polish. So yeah, no fucking reason. She also describes how she was given little treatment post-operation, even though she would always develop a fever and her leg would ooze pus for months, which is absolutely horrible. Similar to these kinds of experiments, there was also an experiment where they would inject bacteria into a patient's bone marrow to test the effectiveness of new drugs they were developing for German soldiers. Which again, it was just basically waiting to see if their leg would rot off or not. All just to see if they could use it on German soldiers. It's real messed up. The next experiment on the list was the freezing experiment, which is another really fucked up experiment, which is somehow worse than it sounds. This one was conducted at the Dachau concentration camp. The experiment consisted of exposing patients to freezing temperatures and environments in order to study the effects of hyperthermia, which basically they were just trying to see like what the human body could withstand pain-wise and stuff like that, to see what kind of conditions they could subject their own soldiers to. But it's not just the concept of this one that's fucked up. Like, I mean, I know freezing somebody is pretty messed up, but it's just the execution of how they did all this stuff. Some of the ways that these patients were frozen were being left completely naked out in the middle of freezing weather, and another one was just like them sitting in a tank filled with freezing cold water, which I know doesn't sound messed up, but you got to imagine this was freezing cold, completely naked. And then comes the most fucked up part about this experiment, which was the rewarming process. So if the patients weren't lucky enough to die, these assholes wanted to test ways to warm up the patients in the fastest and most effective way possible. Well, these Nazi fucks found a very effective and quick way to do it. To rewarm them, they would throw boiling hot water onto the frozen subjects. Yeah, so I mean, imagine you're frozen already, and then to warm you up, they fucking basically treat you with boiling hot water.
Yeah, that's fucking...
It's so fucked up. It's like hard to process, man. But not unsurprisingly, immediately after the war, these experiments and their data were examined and evaluated by Andrew Ivy, who was a physician scientist and American Medical Association representative at the Nuremberg war crimes trials. And unsurprisingly, like I said, he found that these experiments were of no medical value. Go fucking figure. It's almost like they just wanted to torture people. Okay, we got two more I want to talk about, but Sean, I'm going to let you do it because I need a fucking minute to process shit and take a drink.
Yeah. Actually, the thing that I find kind of fascinating is, just stepping away from Nazis for a second, the Japanese actually did similar experiments as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can't remember... I think it's called Unit 731, but I'm not quite sure. But it's basically like a Japanese Auschwitz almost. And it's almost,
during the same time, during World War II.
Yeah, I think it was during World War II. And they pretty much did the same thing. They did, and the fucked up part was they didn't do experiments on prisoners of war. They did experiments on their own people. So they would take... just really quick, they would take a couple, like a big group of their own people, and they'd say that they're working at a sawmill or something like that, and they did think they were working at a sawmill. It was pretty much just a front for everyone, and then they would experiment them on them individually, and eventually they would learn what happened, and they became so objectified toward their subjects that they even called them logs.
Jeez.
But yeah, they did a very similar thing where they would tie them to a tree in the freezing weather, and then they would pour warm water on them to warm them back up, and then that warm water would ice over,
freeze again.
Yeah, and they would just fucking hit them with sticks to see how long it would take for your actual skin to start just freezing itself.
Yeah,
it even got to the point where a guy got hit in the arm with a stick, and his fucking arm just went straight off.
Jeez. That's fucked up, dude.
But yeah, I'd like to say that it gets better from there, but it doesn't. The next experiment we're going to talk about is the experiments that they performed on twins. This one was performed in the very infamous Auschwitz concentration camp in Nazi-occupied Poland. The experiment consisted of taking a set of twins and basically just doing all sort of torturous shit to them. I really don't even know what the fucking point of this experiment could have been. Ultimately, it is assumed that they performed these tests to study human endurance and illness, but really, who the fuck knows? I also was led to believe that they wanted to know if there was a true connection to twins.
Yeah, I did end up researching a little bit more on this after I, wrote down our notes and stuff. But yeah, it basically was like a eugenics thing. and like you were saying, they wanted to see if they had like some sort of rare connection that common people didn't have or something like that. So it kind of explains it, but still it just doesn't make any sort of sense, really.
Yeah, it really just links to how fucking batshit they were. Either way, the experiments were led by physician Joseph Mengele, who had these tests performed on over 1,500 sets of twins. So over some 3,000 children total. At least 200 of these children will lose their lives as a result of the tests. So, excuse me. Some of the sick shit they would do to them is injecting dye into one twin's eyes to see if they would change color. Forced insemination, blood transfusions, amputations, and by far the most fucked up one, sewing a set of twins together in order to create conjoined twins, or Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
That's just some straight up human centipede type shit right there. I'd prefer human centipede. At least human centipede was actually weirdly sexually arousing. What the fuck? Like, what? That doesn't have any. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like when like, what could even been the point of that? What scientific knowledge could you gain from sewing two children together?
Yeah.
And yeah, Jesus, man.
They also did some straight up psychological torture to them by separating them for days and then reuniting them and having one twin witness the torture of the other. It should also be noted that if one twin were to die during one of these experiments, the other would simply just be killed as well. Unfortunately, Joseph Mengele, who is nicknamed the Angel of Death, escaped prosecution for his disgusting war crimes and was sheltered by Nazi sympathizers until his death in 1979. So it kind of sucks that most of this doesn't have a happy ending. But life just fucking works out that way sometimes.
Usually turns out, though.
Last experiment we're going to talk about is the sterilization and fertility experiments. To give you some background on this one before we get into the experiment itself, I need to tell you about a law passed in Nazi Germany during this time. I am getting surprisingly emotional.
I told you I was researching this stuff and I had to take a break because it's distressing to think about this stuff.
Yeah, I don't. Usually my voice is always fucked, but this is me choking a little bit just because of it. So yeah, sorry guys, but
I know I told you it was gonna get a little dark. I'm sorry.
So it kind of sucks, but most of this doesn't have an happy ending. Last experiment. To give you some background on this one before we talk about the experiment itself, I need to tell you about a law passed in Nazi Germany during the time. On July 14th, 1933, the law for the prevention of genetically defective progeny was passed in Germany. The law stipulated that basically anyone who had the genetic health court thought was suffering from a genetic defect or really any sort of affliction thought to affect the growth and development of a fetus were to be sterilized by force. So literally anyone who is mentally challenged, had family history of schizophrenia or epilepsy, if they were even fucking blind or deaf, which can happen after your birth,
by accident,
you got sterilized, meaning you couldn't have children. Now it begins to be somewhat apparent that it wasn't even stuff that might affect a fetus. It was honestly just sterilization of anyone who was different, just because Nazis were fucking pieces of shit assholes.
Yeah.
Period. But anyway, this experiment that they conducted at Ravensbrück, Auschwitz, and other camps stemmed from this insane law. Motherfucker. Within 4 years since they started this experiment, over 300,000 prisoners had been sterilized. Basically, the goal of this experiment was to find a way to sterilize millions of people with minimal time and effort. Well, great. This is leading to something great.
Yeah.
So they can carry out their dumbass fucking law on their own citizens, which, is always a good idea. These experiments were led by another sick fuck doctor, quote unquote, named Karl Klauberg, who was particularly interested in experimenting on female patients who had already given birth. When given that he was a gynecologist prior to this, I'm assuming that's where his interest started. Some of the ways they experimented on these female patients were injections to their cervixes, radiation treatment, and the removal of their reproductive organs entirely. So I'm assuming
just totally took out their,
botched ass hysterectomies and shit.
Yeah.
Men suffered the same fate, with having some of their genitals exposed to extreme amounts of radiation or just having them surgically removed. Human castration, guys. This is the kind of shit that could still be going on if Nazi Germany had prevailed. Fuck. Another asshole doctor took it a step further with his female patients, going so far as to see how psychological stress could affect a woman's menstruation cycle. Dr. Herman Strive would do all sorts of sick shit, like telling some patients the exact date on which they would be executed, and then studying the effects of the stress on their ovaries and changes to their menstruation. After they were murdered, he would then have their reproductive organs examined. If this wasn't twisted enough, he would even have some of them raped just so he could study the pathing and behavior of sperm traveling through the reproductive system. Yeah, real fucking sicko. But that about wraps up for the experiments. Thank fucking God. We wanted to talk about, Chris, what's up next, man?
Okay. So, just the goal of talking about those experiments is so we're all on the same page when we go into talking about the conspiracy theory side of things. Talking about Hitler and the possible reasons why they might have been conducting such bizarre and messed up, insane experiments. We started off by telling you guys a bit about how the Nazis and Hitler behaved, and what they were after, which was world domination and stuff like that. And then we told you about their interest in the occult, and then how they conducted these disgusting experiments. Well, now all this crazy conspiracy theory talk, should be an easier pill to swallow. So next we're going to talk about the possibilities on why Hitler was interested in the occult and why Hitler wanted these experiments carried out. My theory, as well as many others, was that he was trying to find a method to create the ultimate Nazi Germans and Nazi German soldiers. And honestly, it just all kind of adds up. Keep in mind, Hitler and the Nazis' mindset here. Their goal was to dominate the world and reshape it in this utopian Nazi German paradise where every single German is pure Aryan race and with no defects, no pain, no injury, basically these perfect humans. Mm-hmm. As fucking crazy as it sounds, I truly believe that was their goal. I think Hitler and many other high-ranking Nazi officers believed so heavily in the occult that they had first turned their prospects on finding a supernatural way to alter their soldiers and gain ultimate power. Why else would Hitler seize the Spear of Destiny during all of that shit going on? He made it a specific goal to go to the Hof Museum in Vienna and go reclaim that Spear of Destiny. And like I said, he was infatuated with it and knew that the story surrounding it was that it would give you ultimate power. So, why else would he go back for it? Mm-hmm. He's a fucking dictator in wartime. He makes a little side skirt to go pick up a fucking an ancient relic. It had to be for his occult beliefs. But yeah, they also allegedly practice Satanism, which, was referenced by that Dr. Stein, talking about Dietrich Elkart or whatever. I can't remember his name, but you mentioned that guy, his mentor, Hitler's mentor. So, they're probably trying to communicate with Satan and make some sort of weird, Faustian type deal or something. And then, aside from the occult stuff, we have all these experiments, all of which seem to deal with things like pain tolerance and trying to see how long they could get somebody to live during, pain and torture and all this stuff, and just, all sort of bizarre pursuits of human purity. To me, it seems like they were trying to create super soldiers or just perfect humans. And yeah, like I said, I know that sounds crazy, but it just doesn't make sense to me otherwise. And like I said, all the stuff they were doing and were going to do, it seems like they were just trying to this is what they were really trying to accomplish, which is fucking insane. But I don't know, Sean, what do you think about all this? Do you think they were trying to create some sort of super soldiers, or were they after something else?
I think the issue with Hitler is that he's in that point in a lot of people's heads where he's almost kind of viewed as like another Rasputin or a big occult icon.
Mm-hmm.
So usually people always think he's synonymous with that kind of shit, and like he succeeded on that stuff.
Yeah.
The only reason that he probably was going for it, because I think any fucking general or any leader is going to go in on experimenting with that kind of shit, especially when you have total control of a country.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that he wanted to go in on it and try his shit. I've heard a lot of different fucking things about Nazi Germany, but obviously that didn't lead anywhere. He still ended up a desperate fucking piece of shit towards the end, declaring total war, killing fucking everyone that crossed his path, destroying bridges, destroying routes, and enlisting Germany's children to fight in the war.
Yeah.
So obviously he didn't succeed. And that doesn't really show any evidence of him being even close to succeeding. Of course he took the coward's way out. And it's still interesting just because I do want to know how close he got. I think the closest I ever read about him having super soldiers was the fact that he this is just me being bullshitting, but from what I heard was that he actually gave his soldiers and a lot of just a lot of his army methamphetamine.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
so that was like the closest they could be, because meth kept them up for fucking days at a time. I think he even like started mixing food with it, so if they even didn't want to take it willingly, like their rations were mixed with it.
Yeah. And I think it wasn't just like straight up meth. I think it was all sorts of other stuff, like pure adrenaline, and not, like I said, not individually. I think this was like adrenaline mixed with meth and just all sorts of shit. Like he would just inject them all sorts of stuff to try to get the best results out of his soldiers, which is fucking insane.
Yeah.
And and that's the fucked up part too, is he would not just be doing all these fucked up weird experiments on his prisoners and stuff, but also his own people, the people that are fighting for whatever crazy cause that he was fighting for.
Yeah, and that's the thing that is upsetting, because a lot, I'm not going to say a specific number. I want to say half. I want to say the majority. You really don't know, but I'm just going to say a good chunk of his following, probably was very true at first. It was probably very patriotic at first. And, as far as that goes, like, you can just tell that after he just started doing that desperate kind of shit, feeding his fucking soldiers meth, enlisting children, doing anything and everything he could to win the war, But the question itself, do I think he was trying to create super soldiers? Fucking 100%. I think every country every day is trying to make super soldiers, so there's no fucking way that one of the most famous dictators in history wasn't trying to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. That shit's just crazy to think of.
Yeah. Like, yeah, like I was trying to think of it from like a realistic standpoint too, like what else he could be trying to do or accomplish, or what else they were trying to accomplish, but just really it has to be like they were just trying to make some weird creation of superhumans, and they had to go through a lot of fucked up shit to do it. But anyway, let's go over a few other conspiracy theories from people all over the world on what they think Hitler was up to back then. So one of the craziest conspiracy theories that I came across was that some people believe that Hitler had, through the work of his top scientists, created a time machine and was himself a time traveler. They think that this was how he was able to accomplish all the things that he was able to do. And some actually believe that he was able to predict his own death, and because of that and the use of his time machine, that's where one of the theories that Hitler didn't actually die that day on April 30th, 1945 comes from. This theory is also known as the Die Glock hoax, which, hoax, so it's kind of more proven not to be real. It was first described by a Polish journalist and author Igor Witowski in Prawda und Wonderwolf, later popularized by military journalist and author Nick Cook. Die Glock, which means the bell, was obviously a Wonderwolf, or wonder weapon, that Nazi scientists created originally as some sort of anti-gravity machine, but I guess it was also believed to be able to send the users through time because, the way that it spins and stuff, I guess. Sorry. But like I said, the Die Glock is described as a bell-shaped machine that rotates and glows, hence the name Die Glock, which again means the bell. This conspiracy theory, however, is mostly just nonsense, but it's still pretty interesting nonetheless. Like I said, a lot of people call it a hoax because it was just basically made up by some sort of journalist guy. And
that sounds dope as shit, though. Like, I imagine, I'm kind of imagining like a gyroscope with like fucking light in the center of it, just spinning, and then imagine just shooting someone and they just fucking condense through time.
That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, the way it looks, like, kind of just picture a bell, like sitting down, and then, it's spinning, like, horizontally or whatever the fuck, I don't know. Spinning like that, like a top, and then glowing and shit. That's basically how they describe it. I don't really know how it's supposed to work.
I imagine it way differently. I didn't even think of the bell shape.
That's why it's called Die Glock, because I guess Die Glock means the bell or something.
No, because they got that Glock on them.
They got the Glock. But anyway, what the hell were we talking about here? The conspiracy theory that Hitler didn't die that day back in 1945 didn't start from that time traveling theory, but it actually started from Joseph Stalin himself. Yeah, the Russian dictator, which is bizarre. But he had a marshal, I don't know how the hell to say his name, Georgy Zhukov, attend a press conference on June 9th, 1945, which was just shortly after Hitler's death, alleged death, where he presented the possibility to the public for the first time that Hitler might still be alive. Stalin believed that Hitler had used a body double and had escaped to either Spain or Argentina. And those were in his words. He said Spain or Argentina. He just kind of spitballed it. Like, didn't give any real explanation either. They're just like, Stalin, where do you think he went? And he's like, nah, it's Spain or Argentina or something like that. I don't know. Maybe he went to Kentucky.
Well, yeah, Stalin just has a southern accent all the time.
Yeah, he doesn't speak Russian. He's just like, nah, Spain or something. I
don't know where them fucking Germans like going.
where Germans like going? You guys tell me. I don't know what the fuck. But yeah, unfortunately, this disinformation spread like wildfire, and many mistook this conspiracy theory for facts. So much so, actually, that the British newspaper in 1945 printed comments from Soviet officers about these rumors, and that just helped further spread all this disinformation. So a lot of people actually ended up believing this. And I actually read that during, like, following Hitler's death in, like, 1947, I think it was, like, 2 years later, they took a poll, and 51% of, I think it was Americans, 51% of them believed that Hitler was still alive. But the most interesting part of all of this is that even till today, Hitler's death cannot truly be confirmed. Actually, some declassified FBI documents had reports that mentioned sightings of Hitler, but the FBI, of course, say that these statements and reports can't be verified, because, of course. However, there are also confirmations of jawbone fragments having been discovered at the alleged site of Hitler's death, and dental records that, I guess, confirm the DNA of Hitler and Eva Braun. But the fact that this supposed body was burned is a little fishy to me. Because if you guys didn't know this, according to some KGB agents, they took his body, burned it, and then threw it into some river. I can't remember the name of the river. But they did this basically because they were afraid that a bunch of neo-Nazis would end up gathering at his gravesite if they buried him. So, I mean, like, yeah, it's a good excuse, but it's also really, really fucking fishy. Other crazy-ass conspiracy theories include Nazis trying to build a base on the moon, which I couldn't find a whole lot of info on, but I did come across it as a conspiracy theory, so there's people that must believe this shit. And Hitler attempting to summon demons to fight for his army, which again, I mean, that sounds like some Hellboy shit. And just many, many more ridiculous theories. But now has come to the time for us to talk about just all sorts of random shit that kind of pertains to this subject. So, Sean, do you have any that you want to, start us off with?
You mentioned the Wunderwaffe. Wunderwaffe. It just immediately made me think of zombies from Call of Duty.
Yeah.
The
Wunderwaffe, sure everybody's thinking of.
Yeah, the Wunderwaffe in Call of Duty, anyway. I think it's in Black Ops Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is essentially just it's like electrocutes people. Like, it's still a fucking badass gun in the game. Essentially, if you haven't played that game, which fuck you if you haven't. I'm just kidding. If you can try it. But essentially, there is this box that you can spend credits at, and whenever you pay for the box, it randomly gives you a weapon. So you're gambling for a weapon. And one of the chances of you getting a weapon are a couple of really, really strong weapons. One of them being a ray gun, like an alien ray gun, and another one being Wunderwaffe and Thunder gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because how they were saying the Thunder gun and Wunderwaffe seemed like they were both sides of the different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Because how they were saying how you were saying before that it was supposed to affect like gravity or whatever. That's kind of what the Thunder gun does. It like pushes you away, whereas the Wunderwaffe, it just electrocutes you. And of course, Nazi zombies in Call of Duty has a lot to do with time travel. It gets to the point where they're even traveling in different dimensions the further along you go in that storyline. It gets a lot fucking crazier, but
actually, now that we're talking about it too, there's a level where it's on the moon.
Yeah, there is.
So yeah, I mean, there's Nazi zombies on the moon on that one too, which is funny.
It's weird because it goes into, it's like mostly during World War II. That's like where the origins go. But even fucking it goes into World War I, like we saw. I forgot the map specifically, but it's one of my favorite maps actually. One with the giant fucking robots.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
it's
like in the trenches or whatever.
It's when Tank Nikolai, Takio, and what's his name?
I don't remember.
Oh my god, he was the best too. Oh my god, no.
Something with an R. I don't know. Richtofen.
Yeah. Richtofen's fucking best. I don't know. That's one of those games that kind of like solidified, or that mode anyway. The storyline of that game mode solidified just how much lore you can fit in just with the like occultism and stuff.
I was gonna say, like, if you're a big fan of like thinking about the occult stuff linked with like Hitler and Nazis, like that game is made for you, because like I said, it even went as far as to do the like moon thing with the Nazis.
Brings in the CIA.
They bring in all sorts of, like, every single thing that I think we've talked about on here. They kind of have involved in that.
We haven't
like even as far
dragons.
as ghosts and all sorts of shit.
They bring in ghosts
with the girl Samantha and all that stuff. And aliens.
Yeah, aliens.
Yeah, because I forgot to mention. Yeah, there's theories about Hitler had connections with aliens.
They have Cthulhu.
Yeah, Cthulhu
no bullshit
stuff
no
too.
like actual Cthulhu. Because they bring in like eldritch kind of shit in Borderlands, or no, I almost said Borderlands. Jesus, Spike, and then Black Ops 3. Yeah, in Black Ops 3, they bring in like kind of like eldritch kind of lore. But one of the maps, it was.
Oh yeah, you're right. I remember.
But in one of the maps, it's supposed to be like a Japanese island, and it's kind of like hidden in the code, kind of Easter egg. But they actually had like a design for Cthulhu that didn't make it into like a final cutscene or some shit like that, and it was fucking really cool. But yeah, so Cthulhu was like almost confirmed, and they probably just left him in the code or in the map itself. So yeah, there was like a partial model of Cthulhu's head in the left in the map.
I wonder if they did that on purpose or if they did it on accident.
Well, I mean,
Knowing them is probably on purpose.
Well, any AAA game, like they know they're gonna have their code read.
Yeah. But yeah, like speaking of like Nazis on the moon and the, like alien connection thing, there's a really stupid movie. I think it came out in like, what was it, like, couldn't have been that long ago, like 2012 maybe, I don't know, it's called Iron Sky. Have you seen anything about this?
I saw that in the notes and I didn't.
It's basically about Nazis on the moon. They apparently had built a base on the moon or whatever, and then they end up building like this big like spaceship basically and come invade Earth for like the Fourth Reich to take over again. Like, yeah, so it's Nazis from space sort of thing. Like, looks stupid, but apparently there's Iron Sky 2, and then I think they're actually making a third one. So I don't know, maybe it's worth checking out.
Such a dope name for such a shitty concept.
I know, I'm like, it's so stupid, but honestly, maybe it's cool or something. Like, there's actually, like, going back to the Nazi zombies thing, there's a movie called, I want to say it was Die Snow, or Die Snow, I don't know how you'd say it, but it was like a German movie about Nazi zombies. It's like these kids camping, or like doing some sort of like ice skating thing out on a cabin in the snow or whatever, and a bunch of undead Nazis attack them. It's pretty fucking cool, though. Mm-hmm. I remember I watched it with my friend Zach quite a while back, but yeah, it's pretty brutal. Like, but if you want like a good movie to watch about Nazi zombies, that was one I remember. I don't remember it being particularly good, but it just like was good for what it was supposed to be, you know?
Yeah. Another, you know, I didn't actually get to see this one. I wanted to ask you about it. Actually, first, sorry. Let's talk about Inglourious Bastards, because it's wholly based. Well, not wholly based, but it's more realistically made. But of course, if you've seen the movie, it's not.
Yeah, you know, it takes its own tangent.
Yeah, it's not true. Same thing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Which, by the way, did you watch that one?
I haven't got to watch that.
Yeah, I watched that one. It's basically the same kind of concept as Inglourious Bastards. He just takes true events and warps it
and does his own thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's still really good. But yeah, Inglourious Bastards, of course, fucking one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I just watched it the other day, actually.
Yeah, I think I watched it like last week or like the week before. I don't know why. Like, it's one of those movies where if I see it on Netflix, or you know, if I'm able to watch it right then and there, I'm
compelled to watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Like, just the fucking au revoir, Shoshana. Like,
I always love the part when the British officer played by Michael Fassbender,
mm-hmm.
when he gets busted, and he's just like pulls out a cigarette and he's like, well, if, what does he say? I can't even remember the line, but he's like,
well, if this is it, old chap.
Yeah, I'd rather go out speaking the king's English. It's like, damn, that's
what do we say?
Fucking clean.
Yeah, what do we say to him or whatever the fuck? And he's all, say goodbye to your Nazi balls. Like, holy fuck. If you haven't seen that movie,
there's only one thing left to do.
What's that? Say goodbye to your Nazi balls.
Say goodbye to your Nazi balls.
Holy fuck, I love that movie.
Yeah, sorry, it's a fucking good ass movie though. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch that.
Yeah, and like I said before, it doesn't go off on a tangent. It's just, you know, Quentin Tarantino going a little crazy with the story.
Yeah,
but it's still fucking cool, and it's more realistic than you know, Nazi zombies. But I don't care. It's weird that Iron Sky doesn't work, but Nazi zombies does. You know what I mean?
I know, it doesn't. Really, if you examine the concepts, it really doesn't make sense why.
Well, yeah,
space Nazis doesn't work more than Nazis.
Well, yeah, because literally all it was Nazi scientists looking into a meteorite, or a lot of meteorites that landed, and then the meteorites had a material called like 115 that they named it.
Yeah,
and then they just started experimenting with it, trying to make immortal soldiers, and that was it. And then it goes into like teleportation, a bunch yada yada yada, and then it just goes more and more into it until, you know, their whole reasoning behind why they can still make it now is because, like, as soon as Richtofen and the other scientists started fucking with the shit, then they just made like a non-stop loop of events to happen eternally. So like, it's never gonna stop.
Yeah. And
that's like one of the, like, you know, smartest ways to make a fucking storyline is just bring some time travel into it and just being like, oh well, it's not cyclical, you know, and you know, you've made multiple universes now, and you're fucking up different dimensions and shit like that. And, you know, it's just kind of cool. But, you know, of course, Hellbenders.
That's a way different show.
No, that's fucking, who is that? It's Oni NG and
Chris O'Neill.
Yeah, Chris O'Neill. But yeah, fucking check them out too. Like,
you can look at them.
But no, it's
completely different.
Hellboy. Jesus fuck.
Yeah, the first Hellboy, by the way, not the second one. The second one doesn't really have anything to do with Nazis, but
I can still watch fucking elves. Just
I mean, yeah, you can still watch the second one. The second one's great. It just has nothing to do with.
Well, even the first one doesn't have. Oh, it does, but like
because yeah, the main guy, and all that, like.
Well, the main bad guy is like kind of like basically he is. Rasputin.
I think he was Rasputin. No, he wasn't. He was named something else.
I think fucking basically.
I think the theory of that knife wielding dude was supposed to be like Rasputin or whatever.
What?
Yeah, remember the guy with the knife?
No, I remember him. He's supposed to be Rasputin?
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be like the background lore or something.
That would be cool, because Rasputin was infamously hard to kill.
Yeah, which actually I really want to do a thing on him now that
Rasputin?
we're talking about him.
Yeah, I love Rasputin. That's a fucking great one.
I want to look into that stuff. He would have been a good one to include on some of this just for a little, side notes. But
did you heard like what they had to do to try to kill him, right? Yeah, those two dudes. Fuck. They like...
Well, wait, if we're gonna make an episode, we'll save it.
They did a bunch of shit. To try to kill this dude. But yeah, Hellboy, of course, it gets crazy, but it's mostly German, and like, yeah, the main bad guy is supposed to be Russian.
But it's a good take on like the occult blending with World War II stuff and Nazis and shit like that.
Yeah, the movie I wanted to ask you about, because I still haven't seen it. That's the movie. I'm fucking such an idiot. I watched Midsummer the other day.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I liked the movie, but I was thinking of this one to watch, and I was just like, oh, fuck it. It's the same group of people. Because apparently fucking everyone's trying to make Sweden scary as fuck these days. Fucking The Ritual and now Midsummer. I wanted to ask you about Overlord.
Oh, yeah, that one, I forgot to put that in the notes, but yeah, that one, I wanted to like that one. You haven't seen it?
Mm-mm. I'm still going to watch it either way.
I really wanted to like that one, but I don't know, it's so much cheesier than I thought it was going to be. Like, it gets, like, B-movie-ish.
Didn't you say that, like, the majority of the movie isn't even, like, the horror?
And that's the thing, is, like, I think at least half of the movie, it takes at least half of the movie until, anything like supernatural-ish type stuff happens. Because, like, yeah, if you don't know what the movie Overlord is, it's like supposed to be during World War II. These American soldiers end up in this German town, and then they find out that the German town is like a hotspot for like Nazi super soldier experimentation stuff. And but yeah, it just takes like halfway through the movie for it to get fucking interesting. Like, and then I don't know. Like I said, it just gets sort of hokey, like really doesn't I don't know, it doesn't do enough with the super soldier stuff, like I said, because it takes half the movie, and then it just also like gets sort of like comical. I don't want to say like it gets funny, but it just like I don't know if it takes itself serious enough for me to like it. Like, I really don't like dark comedy stuff. I like more of a like serious take. It like, if you're gonna do something dark and gory and all that stuff, make it serious. Yeah,
that's why I love Midsummer. And
yeah, because it's dark, super serious. There's no fucking humor in it, like, other than of course, like,
the playful banter of like the characters themselves.
Which all that is just character development. It's not it doesn't change how the tone of the movie feels.
Yeah, like, it's kind of weird. Like, you can tell in an actor's tone if they're trying to be funny, or if they're actually doing what their character would do.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know, it's just certain things, like if a character gets scared and then they say something like overtly funny, like if they got scared from like a body falling from the ceiling, like, and like landing in front of them, they're like, oh fuck, dust bunnies up my ass, like they're obviously trying to be fucking funny. But if they're, if they say something close to that, and it like it's, I don't know, it's weird. It just
seems more natural.
Yeah, you can see that balance, and you can tell that, like with Midsummer, they have fucking what's the kid's name from Toy Story, the bad kid?
Sid. I know, that's what everybody says he looks like. He does.
No, it's the actor from oh fuck.
From like Bandersnatch and
Bandersnatch.
All that other shit. I don't know what else he's been in.
No, honestly, he's a good actor. I just like giving him shit. But yeah, it has him, and like he's kind of like the jokester in the thing, and dude, he gets so fucked.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to give any spoilers out because it's still a relatively new movie. But yeah, it's one of those kind of movies too. Another one, I'm not 100% sure if it has to do with Germanic, more like Nazi kind of shit. But the one time I watched it, it kind of seemed like it did. Did you ever watch a Cure for Wellness?
No.
Dude.
Oh, that was the one with the kid from Chronicle, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see that one.
Yeah, it's good. It's one of those movies like you think it's gonna be how Midsummer is, or actually no, because it kind of is how Midsummer is, where it's like they're like, oh, we do all these rituals, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's just because they're kind of culty, it's fine.
Yeah.
But then you're like,
nah, something fucked up's happening.
Yeah, they're like, no, they're actually kind of true, like weird shit. Like they're actually achieving whatever weird shit they're trying to do. So the Cure for Wellness is essentially, by the way, this has been out long enough, and I don't really fucking care. But essentially, I like that word today.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Like all you essential workers.
Yeah. Anyway, the twist of the movie is they figured out a way to be immortal, and it takes place in an insane asylum. It's like a broker or some shit. That kid from Chronicle, I think he's just going there to go to this asylum or whatever to retrieve a worker, and just take him back to America or wherever the fuck he lives. I can't remember, and I'm not quite sure. I think it's in Germany. It might be in like Sweden or something like that. But I know for a fact the fucking doctor's Sweden, or the doctor's German.
Okay. Fitting.
Yeah. So basically, the whole thing of the story was that the doctor, there's this doctor, and then there's another girl who kind of falls in love with the main character, or like kind of seems like a love interest, and she's weird as shit, and she seems very ditzy and stuff, and you figure out that it's not, that's.
It's not a character trait. It's something that happened.
Yeah, it's something that happened on purpose. Is that the doctor's purposely been like kind of brainwashing her, and the doctor is actually like 200 or something years old because he used to be a baron. And it's even more fucked up is that girl was his daughter, and good thing about back in the day, fucking kind of shit is that
he's trying to his best.
Yeah, he's trying to keep it all in the family. He's trying to get his daughter to fall in love with him. And he's trying to basically make an error. And I can't remember what the fuck, like, why he hasn't done it yet, but that was like the end of it. And it even gets to the point where like they kind of do like a weird Wizard of Oz kind of shit where like the main character, he's like throws water or some like,
and
or
starts
like
melting.
He throws like acid on his face, and like it like peels off like an outer layer of skin. He actually looks like a fucking like monster. He looks like the Green Goblin we deserved
instead of the one we got in the Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah. Let's not talk about that fucking thing.
Sorry, I actually, it's fucked up because I really love that kid. Like, he's actually such a good actor, especially Chronicle. Holy fuck, I've never like seen a more like inspired.
Yeah,
super.
I know this is getting off subject, but yeah, that's actually like one of the best found footage movies because it.
Yeah, I forgot it was found footage.
It does a good twist on that kind of genre. I know we talked about that, like I think in the previous episode, but
yeah, and he's such a fucking badass in that movie. Just, I'm an apex predator. What? I'm an apex predator. And you just see the fucking bus just hit the motherfucker. Holy shit. Man, if you guys love movie recommendations, this is the show.
This is the show.
Of course, we wouldn't... Oh, hi.
Hello.
Sorry, he was trying to play footsies with me. Of course, we can't not talk about Nazis and not bring up Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Indiana Jones, the first one, in a long time. I watched this...
Have you seen this one?
Huh?
Raiders of the Lost Ark?
That's the first one.
Is it the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the second one.
Yeah, Temple of Doom is the second one, and then the third one is the I can't remember the name, but it's the one where they go for the Holy Grail. It has Sean Connery.
Yeah.
That's the third one is the one I always watched.
Yeah, what the hell is the third one?
I don't know.
I haven't watched the old ones in such a long time. I mean, I haven't even watched any of them.
It's sure as shit not Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, let's not fucking talk about that one. I mean, that one had Nazis in it, and it had alien shit, and think Russians, and I don't even know what the fuck is going on in that movie. I think Spielberg was doing some fucking coke again.
Dude, he was going fucking hard. I don't know what the fuck.
I don't know. He was doing something else. I think he accidentally snorted fucking heroin.
What's fucked up is that movie was so convincing up until you see the alien like materialize in front of you. You're like, what?
And you're like, oh, they really did it, you motherfucker. No, but Raiders of the Lost Ark was a good example of like I shouldn't say realistic because it does take a sort of supernatural turn towards the end, but like kind of a good realistic point for the occult stuff, like the Nazis and Hitler like searching for those kind of like ancient relics that could grant them power and stuff like that, because this one was all about them, the Nazis being them, searching for the Ark of the Covenant, which was supposed to contain, I think, the stone tablets or whatever with the amendments on them or something. Not amendments.
I haven't seen the first one like legit since I was like 4
or whatever. But yeah, like I think the whole thing was they would find that Ark of the Covenant, they would open it, and then it was supposed to grant them like eternal power and all that stuff.
Well,
and
it's
instead
like it's actually more like untapped knowledge that you're not supposed to know. Or some shit.
But instead it ended up containing like angels of death or some shit like that, and then like that's why at the end they all die and dissolve in super horrific fashion, which is still pretty cool to watch today.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But yeah, that's a good movie. Like, I know I just spoiled a little bit right there, but that movie's from like fucking 1985 or something like that. Like, you've had plenty of time to watch Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, unless you're a Zoomer or some shit that hasn't watched it.
So, like, unless you're,
Even then, like, that's not a fucking excuse. Like, if you're 12 and you haven't watched Indiana Jones, Titanic, Star Wars, like at this point, granted, I don't like the new Star Wars either, but watch all of them. Then you can fucking have an opinion of your own, because I understand Zoomers kind of have,
if you're young, appreciate the old stuff that the new stuff is, working off of. That's why I make all these old references from our episodes, because without all these older, concepts and movies and things like that, we wouldn't have the new stuff we have now. So appreciate that shit. It came from somewhere.
Yeah,
and honestly, most of the new stuff nowadays sucks compared to the old stuff.
Yeah, and it's weird because like you got to keep in mind that kind of like mentality, especially like with Star Wars. Like whenever I was watching the original Star Wars, I thought Darth Vader was the dumbest fucking character on the planet. I'm not even gonna lie, because I was in that mindset at that time. I was still watching. I was watching around that age. I think I was getting into the original Star Wars, and I was getting into like Transformers, like the new Transformers with Shia LaBeouf or Buff or whatever the fuck. And
it's not even new nowadays.
Yeah, I know, but at the time it was new, and so like the that level of fucking insane CGI, than watching Star Wars,
to the old Star Wars.
So you're just like, what the fuck is so bad about Darth Vader? Like I just get like, oh, he was a badass.
He's mean.
Yeah, but like I'm not in the mindset of being in the fucking 70s or 80s when those movies were coming out. And just being like, he's fucking terrifying. Until I watched Rogue One.
Rogue One does a good job of showing how scary Darth Vader can be, because he's like Jason Voorhees in that fucking scene.
Dude, holy shit. Anyway, and by the way, stormtroopers, Nazis, am I right?
Yeah, I was like, actually, George Lucas did model like the Galactic Empire after like the Nazis and stuff like that. That's why they almost dress like German soldiers and kind of act like them too. Like obviously, like you said, stormtroopers. I think that was another name for German soldiers during like blitzkriegs and stuff like that. They would call them stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm. So another game that I mentioned before was a Wolfenstein. Did you play that one?
Yeah, I played the first. The newer first one, the new or whatever it's called, Colossus.
Did you play the like old ones?
I never got to play the old ones. No.
Old ones are kind of cool. I remember I have like small memories of playing. What was it? Like the one on the 360 or some shit. I'm pretty sure there was one on 360. I have a vague memory of doing that. I haven't played a lot of it. I played some of it with a buddy. I haven't bought it on Steam yet, but I want to, especially because there's a scene that I got spoiled from. It was on Facebook, and it was like a quip of like, oh, this amazing scene from Wolfenstein. Do you remember? Because it's blah 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 years old. And it's like, fuck you, man. It's 5 years old. Can you not make me feel old for fucking 2 days?
Yeah.
Like, they did a piece on Ratchet and Clank the other day, and it made me feel like a bag of shit. Anyway, that's a different story. But with Wolfenstein, they did the one where I guess the main character gets his fucking head cut off, and he gets a new body.
Yeah. I don't know. It was weird as shit, because especially since I hadn't played any of the other ones, and I had only played that one, so seeing that part, I was like, the fuck am I watching? What am I playing? But I don't know. It kind of works because the game's so weird and quirky.
Well, yeah, it's just supposed to be like the Third Reich in the 80s, right?
Yeah, it's basically in an alternate timeline where like the Germans didn't lose. Yeah. They won instead, and kind of are starting to like do their world domination thing. Yeah,
so you're just part of like a rebellion against them.
Yeah, instead of being, like what we were actually the top dogs during World War II, but in this scenario we're like a resistance.
Yeah, that's still a really fucking cool concept. Like I said, dude, this shit's just full of fucking badass concepts.
Yeah.
Like, even if you were writing something like today, like, it doesn't even have to really necessarily be about Nazis, but I'm sure you can fit Nazis in there somewhere. Like, probably. And Hitler actually, looked into this whenever he was in art school, and he failed because it ruined his mind. You're like, what? But, dumb people fucking fall for that shit all the time, where they're watching a show and they're like, oh, that's why. Dude, by the way, your dad was just telling me, Jim, sorry. He was just telling me about Hitler. He was watching a show, and it's from a show. He's, this isn't a conspiracy theory or anything, but the show was, it's a little bit cheesy. And he was telling me that Hitler was actually, it turned out he was like a man beast or some shit.
What?
Yeah, it was weird. Well, it's essentially like the whole. It's supposed to be about like the Brothers Grimm or whatever, and so a Grimm is actually just a type of person or whatever, and they can see like the half beast or whatever the fuck you happen to be, and it's not just that, but it like turned out like, yeah, Hitler was one of those, and there's of course a bunch of fucking reasons why he became more powerful and stuff. It's just like, it's so fucking easy just to work.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, honestly, if you're interested in this concept, there's fucking endless amounts of like pop culture out there for you to like just go through. Like, even I'm assuming that Grimm show is newer.
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, even up till today. And like I said, there's even that Iron Sky. Like, even if that interested you for some reason, there's possibly a third one coming out. So I mean, just endless amounts of stuff that you can do with that concept. And I mean, granted, I find it interesting too. So, like, I'm looking forward to finding new stuff. Like, even that Overlord movie interested me until I saw it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Now everyone has a fucking hard on for World War One. Like, did you see?
Yeah, I haven't got to see 1917 yet. Okay, I knew they were gonna ask me.
Fucking good movie.
But I like Sam Mendes, and I like one shots. So everything in that movie speaks to me.
Why am I drawing a blank on this fucking movie?
What?
Oh, god damn it. I can't remember what it's called. I don't fucking remember. Do you have any books, games, movies that you want to bring up?
I think I'm about fresh out.
I think we actually, for once, ran out of movies and shit.
For once. So yeah, I guess that's probably going to wrap it up here for today's episode. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed the content. I know it got a lot darker in some of the parts than I even thought it would, but like I said, especially talking about the experiments and stuff. But I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a review. And if you can share it with, if you can, And if not, just go ahead and share that with your friends, family, and coworkers. Please don't forget that if you're interested in personally supporting the show financially, you can have yourself a t-shirt at represent.com/store/Tipplers 2 cents. And at least one of those shirts for sale right now is going to be on there just for a limited time. So make sure you can, buy that while you can. It'll be up until the end of the season, which will be episode 20. So yeah, grab that while you can.
And also, if you could email us with, your routing number and,
bank account information, social security.
No, also, if you want to follow us for more content, including pictures and updates, make sure to check out our Facebook page and Instagram. If you're looking to share some updates or correct us on anything, or maybe even just want to say hi and tell us you love the show, or send us some nudes, you can reach out to us via Facebook Messenger and send us an email at tipplers2centspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's tipplers2centspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, thank you guys all for listening, and we will see you on the battlefield when Hitler rises from the grave and the Fourth Reich threatens the world once again with its Nazi zombie army. Or maybe we'll just see you on the next episode. Auf Wiedersehen!
Bye!